Hello, Cliff Stanwyck, Stanwyck Real Estate, and today in our series of Selling Real Estate, What Agents Do, we're going over one of the most important parts of what a real estate agent will do for you if they're the listing agent, and that is the market value of your home, step by step. Thank you for joining me today on this video. This is a very key video because there is a lot of things that a real estate agent that is going to be your listing agent is going to do to determine the market value of your home. It's not just your home value. A lot of times your home can be the amenities and the upgrades and the quality and the condition can be worth more or worth less. But if there's a lot of activity in the neighborhood and it's a good market, you're going to benefit from the strong sales activity in the neighborhood. On the other hand, if the market is neutral, then you may not get the benefit of what the house next door or the thing two doors down, the house sold two doors down. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to go to basically discuss the process of selling your house. And to me, it's your market value. To you, it's what it's worth. And the first step in this thing is I start simply by getting the basics on your home. When you go out to Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin, basically what you are shown is really basic information. It's the address, it's the bedrooms, it's the baths, it's the square foot of the house, and it's the basically the size of the lot. And that is fundamentally what happens out there, right? So that's step one. Then the next step that I do is I research the online values for your address, right? So that is what we end up doing is we end up, I go out and I look at the online values of your house. And the interesting part of this search is there's a lot of numbers and data, and no doubt every seller has seen this. It's surprising how everybody working with the same data sets, the basics here, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1239, the address, and the public tax information and the sales stuff all come up with different values. So Zillow says this house is worth $512,300. Redfin says this house is worth $503,829. And Realtor.com says a lot of things, and I wanted to share this with you. First of all, it's an older picture. It's not even that color, so the house looks a lot different. But it shows you an instant offer for the house. The instant offer for the house from Open Door is $495,400, and you don't even have to go out on the market, and you can get $495,400. The funny thing about this is Zillow, who says the house was worth $513, is selling Open Door homes. So it's kind of interesting that marketing arrangement between Zillow and Open Door, that they would price the home essentially more than $15,000 less on an Open Door offer. And then when you get to Realtor.com, if you actually scroll down, they use several estimate platforms. They use 3 tools. One's by CoreLogic and Quantarium and Collateral Analytics. And Realtor.com says the house is worth $550,000. So this is part of the work that I need to do. I need to go through and I need to really look at the market data. And that's essentially what I've done online, saying the house is surprisingly can be worth as much as $55,000 more based on 3 websites. So it's not a surprise that a lot of sellers are confused, and a lot of sellers are probably, yeah, I'll sell my house right now for $550,000. So let's get back to the basically the process. And what I did is I've gone out, I've done the research, the online part of your house. The next thing is I will research market activity of the house. And so I know that the house is in a neighborhood called Quail Glen. So I go out to Quail Glen and I look at the market activity, and it's pretty solid here. We've got 6 houses that are on market, and 5 of them are pending. Now these are houses that are not exactly in the neighborhood, but we're seeing quite a bit of price support. Well into the 6 and 7. So, 725, but they're bigger houses are significant. They're 1,000 square feet bigger. So this is a very desirable area in Roseville. And so what I'll end up doing is I end up essentially doing even a bigger dive, and I start looking at the MLS. And on this exercise, I picked 8 houses that were within a half a mile of the address of the subject. I then adjusted it to the Quail Glen neighborhood. 5 of the houses were excluded because one was 1,012 square feet, was too small. The house in Red Willow was and Coach Whip and Sugar Pine were all 55 plus communities, so they're not comps. And the Napa Loop was also a 55 plus community. So then I then go over, and like I said, I do a neighborhood research thing, and I find my comps on the MLS. And getting back into into the the business of this, I then go to a tool in the process. After I look at the neighborhood, I then go to step 4, and step 4 is make property adjustments. And how do I make that? Well, I use this tool called CMA Cloud. It isn't any, it's a tool that every agent has access to. None of this stuff is rocket science, but I think CMA Cloud has a great tool. And what it does is it allows me to import these houses that I have selected into this comparative market analysis, and then I can go do a side-by-side comparison, and I can look at the 3 comps versus the client subject property, and I have 3 sales here. I have one on Dickinson, one on Steinbeck, and one on Fitzgerald. And the Fitzgerald house went for $575,000 and in 3 days. Well, I'll be able to share with my client that this house had a pool, and when I reviewed the pictures, that the house wasn't really updated. The house at 1644 Steinbeck that sold for $505, there was some market dynamics going on at the time of the sale. It closed at the end of October. Well, at the beginning of October, that's where the rates hit the highest that they've hit, which was 7%. And the market was at that point, a lot of houses were overpriced. And if I look at the original price of this house, it was $546,000. And it basically sold for $50,000 less at 505. So that was a time when people were still, asking. They were way too optimistic about the market value of their house. There was a lot of rate pressure, and the house sold for 505. Now the funny part is Dickinson went out, upgraded, had a new kitchen, and was very well kept, nice backyard. Went out at 535 and sold for 535, and that's how this market is working. It's it was nicely cared for. It was a good location. Quail Glen schools are really good. Wood Creek Oaks is a nice neighborhood subdivision, and it went boom in 3 days. It didn't have multiple offers, but it did go for $5,000 over the list price because people were willing to lock up a house, the right house. And so that is the part of the process that I will do, getting back to the process, where I will make property adjustments, right? And then the next step of this that I do is I will discuss the value with the seller. And I am, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. I'm not supposed to puff up the price of the house. I'm supposed to be fair and honest dealings, and I'm supposed to be honest with him. So I will tell him that based on my review of these 3 properties, and yes, I wish there were more. I wish there were more properties, but again, we're fighting a inventory problem where we have half the inventory that we had at the end of 2022, or I should say October of 2022, and we're also basically have more pendings than we did a year ago. So the market is very active for houses that are market value priced right. So that's the nature of this market. If you have the right market value, it is going to sell. And when these people went out essentially $15,000 cheaper than the house that went out at 546, they got in contract and they were sold in 3 days, right? So that's the nature of the market. So the process is I discuss the value with sellers and with the seller. And what we'll talk about is this is what I believe the value of the house is. This is comparing it to Dickinson, which I think is a really good comp. And what do you need to get more money based on the current activity of the market, and of course inflation, and the mortgage rates are now back at 7. So the market is under some pressure. But again, looking at the activity, 5 out of the 6 listings in the Quail Glen neighborhood are gone. This is a very desirable neighborhood, and so if you put out a nice house at 530, 535, I believe that you should sell in less than 20 days. And again, that's the name of the game in this market, is houses, over half the houses in Roseville are selling in less than 20 days. If we go out on market with a price that is not in contract in 2 weeks, we have missed, right? And we don't want to miss in this market, because we don't want to be the story of happening of Steinbeck, where all of a sudden we did not even sell close to the listing price. We took essentially almost 10% off the price. So that is the next step. So we go over there. If there's some things that the seller is going to do to improve the value or improve the speed of the sale, that will all add into my final market value thing. And getting back to the process, that is the last step. The last step is after I've sat down and I've talked to the seller and I've done it, I give them a current market estimate. And again, this isn't a perfect science. It's plus or minus 1%. In this case, it would be plus or minus 5,000. And so personally, I would recommend that if he has the house in a similar condition to what happened on 1504 Dickinson, and the interest rates, stay the way they are and don't go up, that we could go out at 530, 535 and probably sell his house, right? So that is my process for setting a market value. It's based on taking the information on the home, checking it with the online, online values, and then going out to the MLS, finding appropriate homes that are close to it or in the same neighborhood or school district, then taking my CMA cloud, going through and essentially making adjustments, because there's a tool in there to adjust it. And then what I can do is I can look at the average prices, and based on the average prices, I can do a whole host of things in regards to the average pricing. And I know that the average pricing in this neighborhood right now is around 520. So I feel pretty confident that the 530 price would be good. And I also know from my tool here on the average price per square foot that I know where this price is sitting. And I have this great tool that I use that will tell him that basically sitting in that market and pricing it right, that we will be sold in about 16 days. And I also have another thing where, we look at the about some of the other things as far as the time to sell. We also look at the relative valuations based to what Zillow is saying. And so I feel pretty confident about my accuracy within $5,000. And I also feel pretty comfortable about the comps that we're using to sell this house. And again, that's my process for market value. I think it's pretty much similar to what other agents would be doing in this area or market. I just try to have a little bit better visual tools rather than sending you a 2-line report that doesn't have you the ability for you to go through all the pictures and information on the house. I find this tool to just be really an awesome tool because at the end of the process, it allows you to see the pictures, to see the inside, and it gives you much better than a 2-line report. And it's the way I prefer to do things when I'm uh, adjusting the value, and I like to call it pretty much the market value because I'm really trying to drill down to the location, what's happening with homes nearby you, not everywhere in 95747, for example. And I'm trying to make sure that when we go out on the market, that the buyers who are very knowledgeable, these people have been hunting a house for over a year now and probably got scared at the end of the last summer. They're back at it again. They still want to buy a house. We have more pendings now than we did a year ago. We have to be spot on with a very fair market value of your house. If that happens, your house will be gone in 20 days and you'll be down the road. So that wraps up how my process of market value of your home works. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them on this video or reach out to me on my Facebook page or on my website, stanwickre.com. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to this video series. I'm really trying to have a total A to Z offering on what selling real estate and what agents do, and both the role of the buyer's agent and the listing agent. And I would really welcome your subscription and comments and help along the way. So that's it. I wish everyone good fortune if they're buying or selling a house. And if there's anything I can do, please reach out. Thank you.